Gdansk. I'm very happy to be here. I love Poland, and I'm so excited to be back. I love the developers here. Who here is a developer? Raise your hand. Awesome. I've been an engineer since I was 8 years old, and I got my first computer, took it apart, and my father got really mad at me about that. But I wanted to talk to you today about something that has been promised to me since I was a kid. Products that know what I want and can do it for me without me having to make any choices. So a little bit about me. I am the CTO of a company called ROCeteer, but I'm also the CTO of a company called TWIP. Who here has multiple companies that work on side projects? Yeah. Those of us that are serial entrepreneurs, we get a little bit busy and we like to keep working on things. So I also mentor companies. I have been working in experience design for a long time. It's one of my passions. And I write about that for Inc. and Forbes and Tech.co and other companies. So did you know that we make about 35,000 decisions a day? That's about a decision every 1.5 seconds. 1.5 seconds. In the time that I've been talking right now, you've made decisions such as, does she know what she's talking about? Should I be looking at my phone? What's on Netflix tonight? What should I have for dinner? Did I really like what I had for lunch? All of these things. Do I really like that thing that she's wearing? Did I make the right choice about what talk to come to? A lot of these things are actually subconscious, but we're making them all the time. And a problem that we have is that by the end of the day, we're so tired that we end up with something called decision fatigue. Now, throughout the day, we're presented with forms like this one. Now, who here has designed a form like this? Yeah. Now, this is not great UI. If I was in a smaller room, I could ask you what's wrong with this, but I don't need to because you already know. If somebody has decided to donate to a nonprofit and they have to fill out all of these things, by the time you're even halfway done, you've given up. You don't want to donate to that nonprofit anymore. You just want to figure out what's on Netflix. If you are on Google at the end of the day and you're starting to type, how do I use Google? This is actually one of the top things on Google that people are searching for. And it's not that uncommon. How many people look like this at the end of the day? Exactly. Because we are making so many decisions, we are suffering from this fatigue because we're asking ourselves, what do we want for dinner every night? And we get paralyzed by choice. We're asking ourselves, what do we want to do? And the more apps that we create that are supposed to save us from choices, the more things that we do that are supposed to make our days easier, the harder it gets. Alexa is great. There's some Alexas out there that tell us how wonderful life is going to be. Google Now, Siri, all of these things are great when they work. And there should be sound right now that's going to be coming in a second. He's trying to find pictures of a mowed lawn. How many of you have had this experience? Yes, I tried to get my grandfather to use a computer, and when he was saying, "Okay, Google," it took him 10 tries before Google woke up. And this is common. It's not necessarily accents, it's that it doesn't necessarily work for people. So the things that we try to do to make things easier don't necessarily make our lives easier. And that's what we have to do to try and make sure that we don't fail as designers. So when we're designing things, we have to try and take away some of that pain point. The dash buttons are a very useful tool to help with this. Now, all they do is one specific thing. They're programmed to reorder your washing powder with one press, and Amazon will reorder it for you. And you just put it at the point of service. That's all they do, but it's still not quite anticipatory because there is a participatory experience. You have to push that button. It doesn't know when you need it. The app Magic works well, but you still have to converse with it. You have to tell it, "I want to order roses for my girlfriend." And then it'll do all the stuff in the background, but you still have to converse with it. Netflix was supposed to be great, but I spend about 15 minutes to 30 minutes every time it sends me recommended suggestions for me to try and decide what of those I should watch. I end up with decision fatigue, which has actually resulted in something my friends and I call Netflix Roulette, where we basically close our eyes and just whatever we end up on is what we're going to watch, because we can't decide because there's too much choice. And by the time you get to the time of day where you would watch something on Netflix, you don't want to make any more choices. And these choices are creating 2.5 quintillion bytes of data daily. I don't know what quintillion looks like, but it's probably something like that. We are making too many choices, and that data can be used in a better way. We are coming to the point where we as designers can create magical experiences. We can predict the future. This is amazing. This is what I was promised as a kid. And these are anticipatory experiences. So Aaron Shapiro defined anticipatory design as a method of simplifying processes by responding to needs one step ahead of a user's decisions and responding to a user's needs that they haven't yet expressed. That sounds like magic to me, and it's pretty darn cool. So when you have machine learning with those 2.5 quintillion bytes of data every day. That's a lot of data that we can crunch from everywhere on the internet, which, by the way, are coming from only about 5 apps that people use, which is basically Google, Pandora, Gmail, Facebook, and depending on your country, one other app like Twitter or Sino Weibo. IoT, things like Alexa, Google Home, or any kind of sensor that's around, and beautiful UX. This beautiful thing, right in the center of it, you have anticipatory design. You have the ability to create these experiences. And what's even cooler about it is the cost of getting it wrong is fairly low. If you create an experience that's so close to magic that a user is delighted anyway, they will be happy that you tried. So as long as the cost for them is low, as the burden on them is low, then they will be happy with the result. So why not try and make things simple? So what you do to make this happen is you collect the data, because it has to start with data. You cannot have a good anticipatory experience without a lot, and I mean a lot of data. Then you have to create a predictive model and then crunch an algorithm on top of that. And then you'll be able to anticipate the people's choices. So one thing that's really awesome is that Google has been doing this for a while now, and people didn't even notice when it started to happen in a later upgrade. If you type in something in Google Maps, recently it's added the transport option. So if you want to get to somewhere, okay, so it tells you how long it's going to take in a car, certainly. But now you have the ability to find a train and purchase a ticket. But also, it'll integrate with Uber, My Taxi, Get, Halo, all of the other things that are local on the ground, even if you've never heard of those apps before. And it'll book the ride for you. It's anticipating your need before you have it. And as a traveler, like me, going to another country, that is an amazing thing. Somebody coming and looking for a restaurant to book on Google, because, I mean, really, there's only Google, right? You will find in Google My Business, you find a restaurant, and it'll automatically allow you to book a table if that business is connected to OpenTable. It's anticipating your need for the restaurants. And what's more, once you have that reservation in the email, it will then sense where you are and offer to book a cab for you. So these are anticipatory experiences that are built in. Uber, when you open it up, automatically senses where you are. So you don't need to type it in. You just need to tell it where you want to go. That's a perfect example of current anticipatory experiences, because it can't predict where you want to go unless you have it in your calendar. And that's something that's probably coming. At Evernote, we actually started, one of the first things that we did with predictive modeling was we created calendar entries based on the calendar entries that you had. So if you created a note from a location, we titled it Note from Your Calendar Entry. Nest starts to notice what kind of temperature you want over time. It learns what you set the temperature to at different times of day, so that over time, you don't have to change it. Digit is a company that notices your spending patterns, and for those of us that are terrible at saving money, it starts to find little ways that it can put money aside for you into savings accounts and sneakily saves money for you. It learns your spending habits and saves you money over time. My company, TWIP, we actually have a behavioral assessment that creates a digital personality for you and then matches people up together so that you can actually have a personality profile to find people to travel with that you'll actually like to go with, instead of your Aunt Ruthie who you just don't like anymore. But the problem is, you have to do this exactly right. If you have a person that starts to question how you're making it happen, then you get into the trouble zone. A company in America that is in some places over here called Target started to send out reminders to people, certain people, about the baby that was due before people had noticed they were pregnant, based on markers of their search patterns online. So people started to wonder how Target knew that they were pregnant, which they were, before they even knew it. And it turned out that it was their machine learning and predictive algorithms gone a little haywire. So when people start to question what you're doing and how you're doing it, then your anticipatory design models are not in tune. You need to make sure that you're just on the right end of the seesaw and that your anticipation is simple, but you're not nagging people. Because if you're asking them too many questions, if you're sending them too many notifications, if you don't have enough data, then your predictions are going to be wrong. If you have enough data and your design is simple, then your predictions will be right for them. Amazon is doing something really interesting. They are one of the largest shippers in the world, and actually currently one of the largest retailers in the entire world. So of course, they have a lot of data, and they can get shipping and retail e-commerce right. So they decided to come up with an anticipatory shipping model. Their patent for this contains this. Basically, what it says is that we're going to ship something to someone before they've decided to buy it, so that it's at their house within 15 minutes of them pressing the buy button, so that when they hit buy, it's there. The problem with this is that people will be a little bit confused about how this works. How did I get this product when I didn't know that I was going to order it? How did Amazon know that I wanted this thing? And the thing is, Amazon knew because you were talking about it in your house around your Alexa, which is connected to a whole bunch of other things that feed into Amazon. You've given your data to companies without necessarily realizing it. Everything that you have is connected because of the Internet of Things. So the more things that you give permission to, the better anticipatory design can get. And even if you've only given permission to Amazon, they have a lot of data about your predictive patterns, because you can search on the Amazon site. It has ideas from retargeting on their own site of what you might want. So by the time that you have decided to actually make a purchase, you're probably down to only about two or three things that you might want to buy. And if they have all of those things at their shipping center within 15 minutes of you, then you'll be surprised and delighted when it shows up right away. So here are some tips if you want to make your service anticipatory. First, you actually have to imagine your current business as a service, something that is going to be able to serve customers. Then you have to create digital access to it. Because if you don't have currently digital access, then you need to get yourself online. Find ways to automate that service. Because if it's not automated, then you cannot scale. And scaling is the important part of getting more data, because you have to get a lot of that data in order to scale. Then you can automate. And however this automated service looks, you need to launch it in order to succeed here. You need to learn what your users can live without, because in an anticipatory model, your users do not get to make choices. You are making the choices for them. You have to also determine what ethical ramifications this has. Because if you are making choices for the users and they don't have the ability to override that, then that can cause you problems down the line if you haven't considered this properly. Constantly analyze your data. If you have a lot of data, then you can use this to iterate and improve your model. Always aim to simplify. Simplify, simplify, simplify. The more simple something is, the more it can grow and scale. Make sure that every interaction you have adds value. And please pre-populate your forms. If you give somebody a form and you have information about them, you can pre-populate it. And now we can see what the future can be like. Hopefully. So that is actually all possible right now. We don't need the world of 2050 for those things. So if you can imagine what we will have with anticipatory design in 2050, if we can do all of that right now. I just want to thank everyone for having me here. Thank you to Infoshare for bringing me out, and thank you, Gdansk, for listening to me warble on in English. If you have any questions, I do love feedback, and please email me, please follow me on Twitter, and please rate this session if you loved it. And if you didn't love it, please don't rate this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Is there any question now that you dare to ask? Because we know that sometimes many questions are being postponed till up to the corridor, but we want to have them here. So any question for Heather at this moment? Nobody dares? That's the first time. That's impossible. Yeah, is that a raising hand or? No. Right. Just laying your hair well. It's dangerous. No? Okay. No, then I'm going to give it a try.
All right.
Heather, you know so much about my house. How secure is my house?
Your house is very secure because it actually, everything in there is hashed and salted specifically to you. Your data is not munged with anyone else's. You do not have any worries about your data being leaked out because all of the companies that are currently doing this have responsible disclosure programs. And if you are worried at all about companies that are on the cloud, check their sites to see their responsible data programs, how they're handling security, and they should be telling you exactly how they are handling your data and how it's segmented from other users. But all of these things that I've talked about today are they're not privacy issues at all. You should not be worried about sharing your data because it is only shared to you. So.
Thank you. And I guess your dog was watching this presentation on stage live at home, right?
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. Heather.